Welcome to this week's Into the Wilderness podcast. Well, it isn't actually this week's. It's earlier than the normal podcast goes out. That's because we're
bringing you a Christmas bonus.
A Christmas bonus. We did it last year. We talked about products and things we've used throughout the year.
And it was really popular.
It was very popular.
Had a lot of comments, a lot of emails off the back of it, actually. And quite a lot of people bought stuff on the list.
Yeah, we sold about 3 or 4 watches last year, and we weren't on commission.
No, not at all. And the thing is, this genuinely is just stuff that we own and stuff that we have, and so we know that it works for us, and we're still using it. And that's why we are telling you what we use, what's good, what's bad about it, so that it gives you an idea.
Every single thing on my list I've purchased myself.
Yeah,
nothing has been given.
I haven't actually gone through my whole list, but I don't think I think 1 or 2 things I probably have been given on this list, but I am still using them because they're good.
Yeah.
We're going to go 2 for 1 because I've got twice as many things on my list of paper as Daryl does. So you start off, and then I'll give 2, Daryl.
Okay. Where should I start? I'm going to start with something nice and easy. It's a Jetboil. A lot of people probably have heard them. It's a brand name. And that's a big clock dinging in the background.
Yeah, it's the grandfather clock.
Completely forgot about that, and we should probably close the door.
Yeah, I'll go and close the door while you're talking about the Jetboil. Incidentally, the grandfather clock was made by our grandfather.
Yeah, it was indeed, and brought from South Africa to Scotland. So the Jetboil, it's a stove, and if any of you haven't seen it before, it heats water up incredibly fast. It's also a very, very useful thing to carry with you because it's extraordinarily light. The only downside, I would say, for traveling around the world is that it uses gas, but so far I haven't been to a place that doesn't sell the little gas canisters. So it's not the biggest issue on the planet. So the one, incidentally, I just got one for my birthday, which I haven't opened yet, but I know I've got it, is I don't know the damn name of it because I haven't got it yet, but it's the something light. No, the Mini Mo. It's called the Mini Mo, and it boils a litre of water in 2 minutes. And I'm talking about this because I've actually seen them in action, 2 different versions of it. The last time I was in Norway and the previous time before that, and that's why I wanted to get one because I've seen them. Brilliant pieces of kit. They just get the job done. Compared to the MSR stove, which we also have, it's a lot more fiddly, but the MSR stove, I would say,
it's a bit more extreme.
It's more extreme. So if you are going into those hard to reach places, traveling across the world, and you don't have the option of what fuel, then the MSR is going to trump that.
Basically, because I've had one for more than a decade, and it'll burn almost any liquid fuel you can think of, and it doesn't really matter what quality it is. So you'll always
diesel,
be able
paraffin,
to get something.
Yeah. But the Jetboil, obviously, it has its limitations. But if you're doing anything around Europe or the United States, Australia, New Zealand, I guarantee you'll be able to get the little canisters. I think the pack of 4 costs £20 for the gas canisters. I'm not entirely sure how long they last, but last time Lisa was with us, she had it the whole time she was in Norway, and it wasn't even full, and she didn't finish it, and she used it quite a few times to boil the real packs.
Yeah. So I guess you're probably... I know exactly what's going to happen when you get it later on today, is you're going to want to go and boil some water in a pan just to test it, aren't you?
Yeah, and make a cup of coffee out of it.
So... there you go. I think that's the only thing related to cooking.
I might actually add, I can go a little bit further, is the other cool thing with the Jetboil, it's all kind of a self-contained unit. So the cup, the gas canister, everything is contained within the cup. So it's not loads of little bits you're carrying around, which the MSR stove is lots of little bits.
Yeah,
it comes in a bag, but the point is it's not that compact.
No, I store mine in a pot, but it's a lot bigger than the little pot that comes as part. It kind of bayonet fits in, doesn't it?
And the MSR stove also has this insulated sleeve, which means when you're boiling water.
You mean the?
Sorry, the Jetboil has an insulated sleeve, so you can pick up your boiling hot water straight away. And it has
it is good that, isn't it?
Yeah, so they really, really thought about it. It retails at around, because they've got different versions, I think it's between 100 and 150 pounds, and they're all sit within that bracket with accessories that you can buy, like extenders for the bigger pots, and also bigger feet, depending on what environment you're in.
So, from cooking to jackets or clothing, because I'm going to do 2 in 1 because they're from the same manufacturer, I've had some Swazi gaiters now for more than a year, about a year and 2 months.
We did talk about them last time.
I think they probably did get a mention. At that point, I'd probably only had them about 2 months, so I've now had a full season, and I'm back to a year ago, and they're fantastic. They are. I talked about them a year ago and told you how good they were. They were the best pair of gaiters that I had owned, and they still are, which means that they have longevity because I've worn them a lot. They're Kevlar. Well, the material's got a Kevlar weave in it. They're very simple, very lightweight, and one of the things I like about them, apart from the lightweight, which is very important, especially when you're walking up mountains, is that they fit really nice and snugly. I hate baggy gaiters, and they are £77. I looked up the price just before we started recording the podcast.
So not the cheapest on the market,
but not the most expensive either.
They kind of sit in mid-range now.
Yeah, they do, because you can spend a lot of money on a pair of gaiters. But yeah, I have no reason to change them. The only thing I would say is that if it is very warm, you do tend to sweat a little bit underneath them. But I found a way to get around that, and that's simply...
They got zips on the side.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just take the zip down about halfway.
Because they still are held at the top with a pop button.
They've got Velcro. Velcro at the top. The problem is that when it's around your boot and then it's zipped up and then you've got the Velcro around, there's no way for the air to flow in there at all. So you will sweat a bit because it is waterproof. Put it down halfway and that just lets the moisture get out, and that's how I've got around it.
There's a way around it then.
The second item is the Swazi Tar jacket. Now, I haven't had this all that long, but I have had a different Swazi jacket for much longer.
I now have the Tar as well.
Yep, Darryl has exactly the same jacket.
My wife has used it more than I have, even though it's my jacket, because when I got injured, my cast wouldn't fit through the jacket.
It's got storm cuffs.
Because there's a very good reason that it's got a double cuff system where the inner cuff is very... You know what it reminds me like? It reminds me of a dry suit.
They're like the inside rubber sleeve.
Yeah, the inside
Except
rubber.
This isn't rubber, it's like neoprene.
No, it's neoprene, but it reminds me of wearing a dry suit, and I've worn dry suits for years, and I used to spend 10, 20 hours in them a day, and even with the dry suit cuffs, they're very comfortable. So it's the same kind of concept of stopping water running back up your sleeve. And I tell you what I've learned from experience in the last year, and so has Byron, water running up your sleeve, especially on the hill, is horrible.
It's just horrendous. So we got these jackets because of failings in kit that we had, and that was one of the major things, was issues with it, water up your sleeves and down your chest. And I've worn it quite extensively since I've got it, and it has been brilliant so far. So like a year ago, I can't speak for its longevity apart from... I know a lot of people who own them and a lot of gamekeepers who speak very highly of them, so they've never had any problems with longevity, but I can't personally speak of it. But from the use that I've put it through so far, so good. The other great aspect of this kind of design of jacket, which is not unique to Swazi, but they carry it through a lot of their garments, is how long they make them.
Yeah.
And it comes down to almost, I'm fairly short, although it is a small jacket I have, but it comes down not quite to the back of my knees, but almost, which not only stops the draft sort of running around the lower part of your back, which is just horrendous, especially if it's wet, it also means that you've got something to sit on if you need to take a seat when you're out on the hill. It's just brilliant.
It's way, way better, and thank you, Swazi, because now I have to purchase one for my wife. Because she's been wearing mine, which is too big for her, because I think I've got a large. And so when she's been wearing it, it obviously goes to her knees. Mm-hmm. And she says it's amazing when she's out walking the dog. It's like wearing a big cape. But if she got the smaller one, it'd be absolutely perfect.
Yeah,
and it's windproof.
Yeah, windproof and waterproof. Very, very happy with it right now. I wore it in Nepal.
Like very light.
Yeah, it's not overly heavy. It's not insulated, so it's not going to keep you. It's windproof, as Darryl said, but not having an internal insulation, it's not going to keep you super warm. But Personally, I prefer it that way. I'd rather have a lighter outer shell that I can layer up underneath than have a big, thick, heavy jacket, which I just don't think really works. It works if you're sitting on a quad bike or sitting in a high seat, but for active hunting, it's not really that practical. And I actually wore another Swazi jacket called the Tar Ultralight, which is due to come out soon, in Nepal, but I don't have it anymore because we gave them to two of the hunting guides when we left. And when you see that, it is going to be spectacular because that is a super, super light jacket. Almost the same cut as the jacket that we're talking about now, but to be used just as a waterproof shell. So for very active hunting in the mountains, I think that's going to be my go-to when eventually I get another one back again.
Yeah.
You're up. Yeah,
I'm
that's
not,
two.
Okay. So the next thing is boots. Now, boots is the topic of the internet. Always, you see every 2 weeks, what boots have you got on threads on Facebook, and then the list just goes on and on of people's experiences. Often, I see a lot of people commenting on Harkila boots leaking, and
anybody can see that. It's all over.
That's what I'm saying. That often that comes up in the threads. Earlier this year, me and Byron purchased. We've got a bit of disagreement on how you say the name of the company, and we will try and confirm. But I'm going to spell it for you so you can Google it. It's either Diotto or what is it, Byron?
Diodito.
Okay, so it's spelled Dedito, and we have the Merlin boots, which go past your ankle. Purchased them at the Game Fair this year. I've used it a fair amount, not as much as Byron has, and from first impressions, so I think it was June this year, we've had them out on the hills. Byron had all the walking up to 16,000 feet in Nepal. They were broken in within 1 day. And
I would say they weren't even broken.
They weren't even, they just...
Not for me, anyway.
We did a week stalking stags. The first proper test I did with a week was stalking stags in Blair Athol. And the only part of my body that was dry during that week was my feet.
Yeah.
Because of the failures of the jackets that I talked about earlier. So and also the price range, £185 for the boots.
It's an incredible value.
Sorry, £165.
No, incredible value.
No, I'm looking at the wrong
boot. You are looking at the wrong ones.
£185, so I was correct. So the other boot, which is the smaller one, so it
Dodi, is it?
Yeah, so it basically goes up to your...
It's just like an ankle
one.
Boot.
That's the 165. And we have just actually got the wellies as well, but I can't really comment on...
Yeah.
They're comfortable. I really like the zip system on the side and the strap, but I've only had them for about a month, and out of that month, I've only worn them for 2 weeks because I haven't been able to walk.
I bought mine actually in July out of complete necessity because I was at the Game Fair down in just north of London. And for anybody who was there, you will know how muddy it was. And I didn't bring appropriate footwear, so I had to go and buy the pair of welly boots. So I've had them since then. Yep, very comfortable, neoprene lined. For me, the big test with wellies is how long are they going to last?
Yeah,
because that's the thing. I kill welly boots, or I think actually just there's a lot of welly boots out there which are just very badly made these days. So we'll try and bring you a review in 2 years' time and tell you how long they've lasted, but so far so good.
Yeah, so far so good. And they're warm and comfortable, so I'm happy so far. And I've actually just... my wife's getting a pair for Christmas, and our mother's getting a pair for Christmas as well, the same ones. And the reason for that is I have bought... last year I bought a pair of Hunters for Una, and they lasted 1 month. I'm not joking you. 1 month, they split on the seam in the back, and there was a crack where the bottom of your ankle is, where your foot presses down. And I contacted Hunter, and to be honest, they weren't that interested in it. And then I've also had a pair of the Jules ones, so the Hunters were £120. The Jules ones, I think, were £80. So, these are kind of higher range to mid-range boots. So I'm not scrimping.
And these ones are 65.
These ones are £65. The Jules ones, they lasted a whole 3 months. Bear in mind, this is just walking a dog. This isn't anything extreme. So these ones are 65, so actually less than the other two. And I tell you what, my longest standing pair of wellies are a pair of Dickies, which I think cost 10 quid, and they've been going for about 10 years. But they're not that... They're semi-comfortable.
I was going to say.
Yeah, they're not that comfortable, but they last. That's the point, is they last. So
But yeah, like Daryl said, the boots that we were talking about, which you said, are they called the Merlin, Daryl, the high ones?
Yeah, Merlin.
Yeah. In Nepal, I don't think I mentioned them in the Nepal podcast, but we did. If you didn't hear that podcast, it was the last one, and you will get an idea, or it'll certainly paint a picture for you of the terrain that we were in and how steep the terrain was and how far we were walking. And I had them during that period, and the only issue that I had with them was that it was very hot in the middle of the days, and my feet were sweating quite a lot. But everybody's feet were sweating, and I don't think it would have mattered what you were wearing.
I don't think so.
Your feet would have sweated. But they gave me... I didn't think about them at all. I didn't think about my feet apart from just drying my feet out at the end of the day.
I might add as well is that we've had a pair of lowers which we hated. I despised them so much. They weighed about 5 kgs on your feet. They weren't as much as that, but that's what it felt like. But they were, when you pick up the 2 pairs of boots, they're double the weight of these Merlin ones. So that's a huge thing to think about, is the weight. And they're leather with plastic coating.
Well, I think it's textured, actually.
Yeah.
It's some sort of texturized... I should really have looked this up, but it's some sort of texturized leather on the outside, so it doesn't require the same treatment that boots normally require, although I do treat them. But the one thing is they don't scratch, so you walk through the heather, there's not a mark on my boots, despite months and months of wearing them and abusing them.
Yeah, exactly. So I was going to say something about the boots, but I've forgotten now.
Well, I'll mention 2 more things just in case it comes back to you. Sticking with clothing for the first one, snow camo. Now, we've just finished our wilderness hunt a couple of weeks back, and it was in the middle of probably the most snow that I've seen in probably 10 years here. And I needed to get out the snow camo, which I haven't had for a very long time. And simply one of my favourite patterns for snow camo, which you can get here and is made in the UK, is the snow camo jackets from Fortis Clothing. I got the pants and I think it's just like the smock jacket.
It's just a smock.
And if you get a size up from what you normally wear, then it means that you can throw it over whatever you're wearing underneath. And yeah, I just love the pattern.
I remember now because you just said the size of the boots.
Oh.
So when you're ordering the boots, just to help people out, if you do consider ordering these boots, I am normally a 9 or a 10, and they do half sizes. I've got 9.5, and they fit me absolutely perfectly. Dad got the 1 size up, didn't he?
I think he did. Yeah, he got 1 size up.
Yep.
The strange thing was I was like half a size down.
Oh, okay. So maybe the sizes, maybe our sizes don't go by.
I was 7.5. So yeah, it's worth checking. They go to most of the game fairs. So it's worth actually just going put them on your feet. You really do need to have the right size boot, but that's true of any brand.
But I mean, I'm normally a 9. Typically, I always buy a 9. The occasional 10, depending on what it is. But I got a 9.5 just so I could put some thicker socks. They're absolutely perfect at 9.5.
The service is very good. So if you get a pair of boots that's not the right size, which in fact, when we bought a pair for our dad, it wasn't the right size for him. We just sent them back and got another pair, so it wasn't a problem. The second thing I was going to mention after the snow camo was a Kelly kettle. Now, I've known about Kelly kettles for years and always been very intrigued by them and always wanted one myself, but it's the kind of thing you don't really buy for yourself because they're not cheap, and we in a house you have a kettle, so most of the time you don't need to use them. But I bought it for my dad, I think it was Christmas last year, and he has used it a lot, and we actually took it on the wilderness hunt a few weeks ago and used it every day, multiple times a day. Hot water for washing, hot water for coffee. It is just such a great
really
piece
cool.
of kit.
I used one on the West Coast for the first time, and I was kayaking out to some of the islands on the West Coast, and it was just a case of some heather in the bottom, a few sticks, on you go.
For those people who don't know what it is, essentially it's like an aluminium chimney with a thin water jacket in it, and in the bottom you can make a small fire. And because the water is held so thinly in this jacket around it, it boils in no time whatsoever. I mean, if you get it right, you could probably boil the same amount of water at almost the same time as an actual kettle. It's quite incredible how fast it works. And my dad doesn't know this yet, but he's just about to get a new attachment for it so he can put a pot on the top.
In terms of size, there is different sizes of Kelly kettles. but they're not as transportable as something like the Jetboil.
Yeah.
But
it's a very cool sort of traditional edge to boiling water.
I have to say, it is cool. And if you have the space to carry it to a camp, then I would say taking a Kelly kettle, because if you think about it, Jetboil takes gas. Kelly kettle takes anything that's around you.
Anything that's combustible.
Yeah, anything that's combustible, and you can get enough heat into it. Byron got it from a local gun shop in Blairgowrie.
Yep.
And I suggest, if there is a local gun shop, go and get it from there. But if not,
I think you can get them actually probably in most outdoor stores as well.
Most outdoor stores as well. But you've got to support your local shops.
Yep, absolutely.
But if you don't have a local shop near you, which we actually don't anywhere near us,
not anymore.
Not that anyone that would probably supply that. eBay does actually have the full kit with every attachment. I saw it earlier today. I don't know the size of it, and it was £90 on eBay for the full shebang.
That was with all the attachments.
With all the attachments. Don't ask me if that was a genuine Kelly kettle, but
it looked like it.
It looked like one.
You're up, Daryl.
Oh, I'm up. I'm going to talk about drones, mainly because we actually get quite a lot of messages asking about drones, because our company does drone work. We're qualified and have all of our insurance and all that malarkey that you need to do commercial work with. But most of the time, people contact us about fun with drones.
Yeah.
And people ask us what is the type they would buy. Now, the biggest question is budget. The drones are now in their very similar price brackets. Your Mavic Pro, your Phantom 4, and then you start going higher.
Actually lower. Spark's lower.
The Spark is lower, but I've never used the Spark, so I can't comment on it. That is very much a toy pleasure thing. The Spark has its limitations because of the size of it. So in terms of weather that we get in Scotland, I would say the Mavic Pro is probably the one to go for. I mean, that's the one I've got on my list. So the Mavic Pro is a drone by DJI that you can fold away. I mean, how big? You can basically rest it in the palm of your hand, like it'll go full length of your hand when it's all folded up. Flight time, 25 minutes. It does all of the usual stuff that the DJI drones does, return to home, does lock on points.
If anything, it's probably got more features than some of them.
Well, it's got exactly the same features as the Phantom 4.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's only because we've moved on now.
Yeah, we've moved on now. And what's really, really cool about it is you can throw it in a backpack. The controller is very small as well. You can use an iPhone to control it. And I was going to say, it's got forward obstacle avoidance. It sits in a price bracket of about £1,200. That's what I was talking about budget, because if you want to go small than that, you've got the Spark, which I think sits around about the £700 mark. But you will not be doing any serious work or any kind of good filmmaking or
with a Spark.
It's more for, I don't know.
I think it's just for fun.
It's more for fun, yeah.
I do have a top tip for using the Mav, and that is that in your settings, have the sharpness set to +1. Now, for those people who are sort of into filming, you would know that on the settings on your camera, whatever you're using to film, you always take the sharpness off, because internal sharpening sucks. So you always turn it off or turn it down as far as you can. However, the Mav has this weird bit of software in it that tries to remove noise if the image is a bit dark, and its noise correction also sucks.
Yeah.
So the way to get around that is if you put the sharpness on +1, it will never noise correct the image that you're looking at. The issue is when you bring it into the computer, it might look a little bit over sharp.
Yeah, look a bit weird.
But there's ways that you can soften that up slightly. But the problem is that if you the other way round, if you have it on 0 or minus whatever, and it is a bit dark, or you've got some very dark shadows, the image just looks like mush. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it took
us a long time to work that out.
You actually see it on forums a lot saying, help, my image doesn't look good. It's that reason there. So hopefully I did sum it up. I'm going to sum it up a little bit better than the way I was describing. So you're looking for a drone for Christmas, or you want to buy one for fun, the Mavic Pro is probably a really good one to go for in terms of price, flight time. It does do 4K filming. It does 12 megapixel raw imaging, which
they're pretty good.
Which, if you have seen some of our pictures from the Mav, it's pretty amazing. It's got forward obstacle avoidance, And yeah, that's about it. Quite fast. The batteries are fairly cheap to buy. I say fairly cheap; they're still over £100, but comparison to
and it's easy to
Inspire,
fly.
it's very easy to fly. Your next one up is your Phantom 4. I think it's the Pro that has 5-way obstacle avoidance. So if you are prone to crashing things, I suggest you get that one. But I think that starts around £1,500, £1,600. Batteries are a lot more expensive as well. But in terms of the camera, the sensor is bigger on it, but it can't actually film any better. So the quality, it's hard to say the quality is better. It's better if you're into filmmaking. Because the sensor is bigger on it, so lower light will have it'll be slightly better in lower light. But if you are thinking about, we actually got messages today, if you were thinking about using a drone to see stuff at night or anything like that, forget it. It's never going to happen. The sensors aren't good enough. The noise correction, so not the noise correction, the ISO, which is digital, what helps you digitally to see in lower light, is awful on it. And if you are wanting to do serious filmmaking, then you need to start looking at the Inspire, which starts at, I think the Inspire 1 Pro is still at £3,000, and that's without a good camera on the bottom of it. So I think that's drones covered. And the one thing I would say is that they will be implementing in the next 6 months, about 6 months, either drone registration or drone safety tests for everyone buying them. So if you are buying a drone, there is a thing called the drone code. You can't just fly anywhere. So follow the drone code, and if you are considering making money from it, go and get a license, because
if you're not, you're breaking the law.
You are breaking the law. It's simple as that. And the bottom line is all of these new laws are coming in because people are breaking the law. It's as simple as that. And the thing is, it won't affect us because we have a license. All it will do is all the hobbyists, if you're flying dangerously, stupidly high in populated areas, all it does is the hobbyists will be shut down. And all of the illegal operators that don't have licenses, there are plenty of, will be shut down, and we'll laugh because it has nothing to do with us.
So but behave yourself. Safely.
But if you have a drone, they are brilliant fun, and you can see stuff you've never seen before on areas of ground, and it's just a whole different aspect of life. If you're walking up in the hills, the one thing I would add, if you are in the Highlands of Scotland, all you need to do is look up any aviation map. Basically, the Highlands of Scotland, across the entire thing, is a low-flying zone for military aircraft throughout the entire year. And it's not actually something to be taken lightly, because many times, in fact, when I was flying at Blair Athol, I was flying, and I just brought the drone down, and 10 minutes after, I had an Apache helicopter and a Hercules go through, and they were touching the trees. So they would have actually been below the drone. That's all things you've got to be aware of. And when you're flying up in that area, you can fly there. You just have to not be stupid.
So from drones to something out of the air and onto the ground, I've got 2 products relating to vehicles. The first is a set of tyres which I put on my Land Rover Defender 3 years ago, I think it is. I've got a set of Cooper STT mud terrains on there. I mention them just because actually we do get messages from time to time, or I have certainly, about what tyres to use, because people are either upgrading or just wondering what other off-road tyres they should use. They have been fantastic in the right terrain where they're intended, out in the hills and the fields. They've never let me down yet. I've always managed to get out. What I would say is that if you've got a lot of road miles, probably not the best tyre to use. You get a bit of road noise from brand new, but as they wear down, the road noise gets worse. And a friend of mine up in Loch Ness, he put a set on his Hilux, which is much quieter than my Land Rover, and so you were able to notice it more. And he said that as it was getting down, it really started to make a lot of noise, and it was just simply road noise from the wear of the rubber. And he wasn't going to be putting them back on. He was going to get a set of general grabbers. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I haven't been disappointed with them. They've worked for what I've intended, and I don't use it on the road that much. So for those purposes, perfect. But if you've got to use a lot of, if you're going to be burning a lot of tar, then maybe not the tyre for you. If you drive a Land Rover, you're probably not going to hear it anyway. The other thing I got for my Land Rover about a year ago, what was actually bought for me, was some seat covers, and they are by far the best fitting seat covers I think I've ever seen. They're made in the UK by a company called Turtle Covers, and they can pretty much customize covers to anything that you want, any color, pretty much any vehicle. And yeah, they were very, very simple to fit. No annoying little hooks and bungees. They just work. And I haven't had them slip off any seats in over a year, which is the problem when you buy sort of cheap aftermarket
those bungee ones, I bloody hate them.
Yeah, they're horrible, aren't they?
Yeah.
So yeah, if I need to get covers again for another vehicle, I'm not really going to look past Turtle Covers. So go check them out.
Is it me now?
Yeah, it is you. That's 2 for me.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I'm going to go on to doggy things.
Doggy.
As some of you may have heard in earlier podcasts, when Floki was a puppy, he was roaming around the room and causing trouble. He's still causing trouble now.
But outside.
Eating mats and various things like that. The first one is a dog fleece. This is actually a very recent purchase, and it's just a fleece. I think the brand name, one of them was called Hot Dog or Hot Dogger.
Is it not Hot Hound?
Hot Hound. It could be Hot Hound actually. And then I found that by looking for Equifleece, which actually is one of the big brands that does these fleeces. And the reason why I got it is he hangs out with a husky all day, and right now it is -3 outside, and he has a very thin coat compared to the Sprockers that we've got, and he does get a bit cold hanging out all day, playing around outside, and especially if you take him for a walk and they've got wet, the fleece takes all the moisture away from their skin and puts it on the outside. Very good little thing. I've seen other people use it with working Labradors, working dogs, so it is very much for your working and non-working dog. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass to get it on them, I have to say. But once it's on, it fits really, really nicely on them, and looks like they've got a nice little turtleneck. So.
Well, Floki has it on most of the day because, like Dara said, he's just playing around in like around the garden. But for the people who work, then what they tend to do is they work, and then if you stop for lunchtime or at the end of the day when you're driving home, they stick them on. They're cold and wet. By the time they get home, they're much drier, and at least they won't be so cold.
A lot drier. The next thing is another dog-related thing, which actually I've had loads of messages about, because I often post when Floki has disappeared from the house or got himself into a little bit of trouble. It's Attractive GPS. Now, this is not a GPS that you see in Scandinavia, or I think Brent Norbury actually has one on his tracking dog as well. It's not one of those big ones with the aerial that you can use with a handheld GPS. I think Garmin do a large amount of them. There'll be a few other brands as well. This is more of a more home-based one. It's a tiny little box. I don't even know. It's the size of a matchbox.
Like, matchbox. Yeah.
Matchbox size. Fits onto their collar. And then you pay a subscription, and I pay £6 a month, and then that's just unlimited usage. And what it allows me to do is that because he is free around the property, and he's still young, when he buggers off, I've got a geofence around the house, and I can see exactly where he is in real time.
Oh, it notifies you as well.
It notifies me as soon as he's left where he's allowed to be. Notifies me. I can see where it is, and then all I do is click the live button, and then I get a live feed of exactly where he is, and I can just follow it on my phone. Only downside to this entire thing is that if you do not have phone signal on your phone, you wouldn't be able to follow your dog, but you would still be able to see it on a computer or Wi-Fi because it pings it to its server. So if you were that desperate, you could always have someone else with internet and guide
phone
you.
them, yeah.
Or if you got often you get places with phone signal but no internet. So that's its limitations. Has a 3 to 4 day battery life on it, which is pretty good for the size of thing. I've noticed in the cold weather we've had it in winter, it's dropped by a day, so I'm getting 3 days out of it opposed to 4 days. And yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool bit of kit, and it has saved Floki from disappearing on more than one occasion.
It's even if you're on a dog walk, so sometimes I just leave it on him, and it means that I can see where he is, because often you do lose your dog sometimes on dog walks. They get on a scent and that's it, they're gone, and it's just on him. And I can see where he's been. And what's really cool is you get heat maps. You can see where he spends most of his time around the house. And you can also see how fast he's running and the distances that he's
know
doing.
that.
So you can see how long he's been walking for. There's different versions of this tractive thing. So they've actually got one that's just a pedometer, so you can see the distances that your dog's doing. There's another one. I'm not entirely sure what the other one does. But this costs £70. So it's £70 with the $6.99 subscription. I think I've got the medium subscription, so I think there's one for £4, and then there's one that's a higher one. But the $6.99 one does everything you need it to do.
I was up cutting wood yesterday at a farm near me, and I was speaking to the farmer there, and he had a problem because when he got his new dog, it was absolutely fine until it met up with the neighbour's dog, and when they were together, all hell would break loose and they would disappear off the hills. And I just found out that the lady who owns the other dog put I don't know if it's the same one, Daryl, but she put one of these trackers on. So the other day they went missing all the way over onto the other side of the hill down to the river, and that's how they found them together playing, because they had the GPS
honestly,
on.
The peace of mind that you have with your dog is incredible. I don't even worry about it because I know where he is. If someone tries to nick the dog, unless they take the tracker off really quickly, I know where he is.
Yeah. Okay. Knives. Now, we could talk a lot about knives, but I'm just going to mention one because it's cheap and I use it all the time. I had it out just a couple of weeks ago, and it was the main knife that we were using on the wilderness hunt, because you're not going to cry too much if you lose it or it gets misplaced. And that is, I can't remember exactly what the model's called, but it's a Mora. If you look up Mora, it's there. So I don't think they do any knives that are particularly expensive. And it's just their standard sort of field knife, plastic sheath, rubber handle, plastic ends to it, and a blade that's very easy to sharpen. And yeah, I've had them for years, and they just do what they're supposed to do. Binocular straps. Now,
that was asked about.
Yeah, that was why I added it. I've had a bikini strap from Monarch Country Products for years, and it comes with a neoprene cover that goes over the binoculars. There are lots of manufacturers out there that make bikini straps of some sort, but these are the ones that I've had. They're very well made. The actual strapping material is a very thick strapping, which, one, it lasts, and two, it's comfortable, and it attaches to your binos just by 2 split rings. So you will not be able to attach these, or pretty much any other type of bikini strap, to any of the new Swarovskis, because of the attachment that they have on the side, which is a proprietary design with a little bayonet fitting. So you have to use Swarovski straps for them, and a lot of people use Swarovski binos, which is why I mentioned that. But most other manufacturers have loops on the side of their binoculars, so you'll be able to attach them to that. And yeah, they've been great. So that would be my first port of call, is if you wanted to get a set of bikini straps, which really does aid the comfort of having binos around your neck. Not just for taking the weight off the back of your neck, but just to stop them bouncing around. Because if you don't have a bikini strap, then what I do is I put it like over my shoulder and under my arm instead of just having it over my neck, so that it doesn't bounce around on my chest. It also means that when you're crawling into something, if you've got the neoprene cover
It's not being dragged through the heather.
Exactly.
It goes inside your eyepiece.
And then you've got to dig it out with your finger just when you really need to use them. So they are a great piece of kit, and the Monarch Country Products, they're very well priced, and they're actually made here as well. So go and check them out if it's something that you are looking for.
Am I on the next thing?
You are.
Well, I'm actually reading through a list just to make sure we had covered everything, which was on the podcast Into the Wilderness discussion group, which has recently just been opened, which is it's basically an attachment to our normal Facebook page for our listeners to get involved.
How do you get there, Darryl? I don't even know.
You just go on our normal Facebook page to the podcast Into the Wilderness, and the discussion group is part of it. And I think you just click the discussion, or it's in the top of the page. And there's been loads of people commenting and adding to the discussion. It was really good. But I was just going through the products thing because I asked everyone to go through. And the only thing that's on there that we're kind of not covering is first aid kit and rescue beacons. I can comment a little bit on rescue beacons, and you've done.
I can mention first aid kit.
Use a first aid kit,
but mainly just to say that we will be talking more on that very soon, right at the start of next year. The issue with taking the right first aid equipment with you is so important. And we realized that when Daryl had his accident, which we talked about a few podcasts ago. And we are working with a friend of ours who is basically the man to help sort this sort of thing, to get first aid kits specifically for our kind of activities out in the field hunting. So we're going to keep you posted on that. I'd love to give you more information right now, but I just can't because we haven't worked out the kinks of it. But early part of next year, you're going to see something with regard to first aid kits and the kind of equipment that you should be taking out in the field.
Yeah. There's a few night vision questions on here, but that's covered in the show on Thursday, I think, pretty much.
Yeah.
So moving on to some other things. I have on here, I'm just trying to think. Oh, power bank. Not any particular brand, but I can tell you what to search on Amazon to find the power banks that we've been using. Now, we've used a particular power bank, one of them, we have loads of them now, for over a year now. And these are kind of the more extreme ones. So rubberized, they are slightly better in temperature. They've got a solar panel on the top of it, and they've got 2 output ports. And some of them have got torches on them, some of them don't. They're also, I say waterproof. I would probably, maybe if you dropped it in a puddle and all the ports were closed, it would survive. Definitely showerproof. And if I was looking for a power bank, I would look for anything above 20,000 milliamps, and you'll get out of one of the smaller. That's a smaller one. You probably get 2 charges out of an iPad and maybe 6 charges out of a phone. Out of one of those. What's really cool is, yes, the solar panel is not going to, don't rely on that. But what's really cool is that you'll plug it in, charge it in your mains house, and if you are out walking on the hills, even in Scotland it'll work. You put it on the back of your backpack, it'll just slowly keep topping up that power bank, and it does actually work, because when Byron was in Nepal, it topped up all of your power banks using the solar powers.
It was incredible. We were using a Sony A7S Mark II mainly, and they take quite small batteries. I think they're about 1,200 milliamp hours. So you burn through 4 to 5 of them in a day if you're doing a lot of filming. And every day I would charge those via the power banks. And the sun top-up on the solar panels was almost enough to keep on top of the charging of those 4 or 5 batteries. But it was incredibly sunny there. The weather was very good, and it was warm during the middle part of the day.
But, I mean, heat's got nothing to do with it, so...
No, the only reason I mentioned heat was because it was very, very cold overnight, and anybody who has any kind of device that takes a battery will know that extreme cold is not good for batteries. So you do have to weigh up if you're going to be putting it out in the winter, which it still will top up with the sun, if the cold is going to do more damage to your battery power than the sun.
No, I get what you're saying now. So all you have to do we got these off Amazon, was just type in extreme power banks or waterproof power banks, and it'll be the first ones that come up. They've got like a rugged looking case on them. It's none of them in particular. It was just the ones with the top rating, and like I said, anything above 20,000 milliamp hours, and you'll be on to a winner of how much you can charge. They're not particularly that heavy.
No, they're really not. As a rough guide, if you want to work out, if you've got, say, a camera like we had, and I was trying to work out how many times can I charge this little battery. If you read on the back of your battery, it'll tell you how many milliamp hours it is. And your power bank will also tell you how many milliamp hours is the storage. And if you divide one by the other, it'll give you roughly the number of times you can charge it. Although, of course, there is some loss of energy through heat transfer. So knock a couple off, and you'll get somewhere in the region of the number that you can charge if you're trying to work it out before you buy it.
But they are good, though. They are really, really good. And the only thing I would say is that if you are charging them like from 0 to full, they do take quite a few hours overnight. Long time to charge it overnight. You've got something next, don't you?
Yeah. I've got camera gear, actually. So as most of our listeners will know, we do take a lot of pictures and we do a lot of filming because it's part of our business. And I thought I would just mention 2 camera lenses that we use a lot. Probably the camera lens that we use more than any other is a Canon 24-105 Al series, the image stabilized one. We've just bought a second one because we needed it for another camera, secondhand. I can't remember which site it was from. It was from one of the secondhand lenses. It was either Wax or MPB, I think it is. You can buy them for £500-600 second hand. It goes down to an f-stop of 4, which is your aperture, the depth of field that it lets you get. If you want to hear more on that, listen to the podcast with Sarah Farnsworth.
But honestly, buy it second hand. Don't
buy it new.
Don't buy it new. You're wasting money if you do that. You can buy one second hand that is pretty much down. In fact, you would, if you weren't told that it was second hand, you would think it was new. It comes in the box. Everything looks the same. And bear in mind, these goes through companies that service these lenses and check them out. And you can see when you buy them the conditions. So it goes from excellent, good to, I think, as an average.
Some of them have different specs. Some of them do like a 0 to 10.
But if you buy anything from the good to excellent range, you're going to be onto a winner. And every single time it'll say, has some dust in the lens. We've never found one with dust inside it.
Has some or small amounts of dust, but won't be noticeable. And I've never been able to see the dust, but I think they just do that on the excellent ones just in case. But that lens, it's incredibly flexible. Especially if you're doing some filming. We've taken a lot of pictures with it as well. And I definitely couldn't live without it. I don't know what I would do if we didn't have that.
If you want to spend a little bit more cash, we would like the 2.8 version.
But there isn't a 2.8 version.
I thought there was.
Yeah, no, and there's a 24 to 70 2.8.
Oh, that's what it is.
But not a 24 to 105.
Okay, yeah.
So Canon, if you're listening, bring out a 2.8 version because that would be awesome. And just very quickly, the other lens which we're increasingly using a lot is the 70 to 200L series. That's one of the white lenses. Again, second-hand, it is a lot of money, but it's not really if you consider how much other things cost. You can get a 70 to 200L series, the f4 one, for about 650 quid. The 2.8, which gives you way more light gathering and much more depth, is awesome. But it's about 3 times the weight and twice the size. So you got to weigh that up. I haven't used it a lot for filming because of the weight aspect of it. But Daryl has used it a lot for pictures, and it does take a beautiful picture.
Yeah, I love it. It's of all the lenses, it'll be the one that you use on a job 60 to 70% of the time.
Pictures,
especially
incredible.
for pictures. When you don't have the ability, which often we don't, to be changing lenses all the time. That's the one I'll just go with.
Yeah.
Because you'll win.
I've got something which isn't something you can necessarily buy, but it's a service, and it's probably only relevant actually if you live somewhere near where we live, which is in Angus or just over into Grampian area, is using a car garage for anything, whether it be a service, MOT, or you need something fixed. It's very rare that you leave there feeling like you've got a good deal. But I've been using the same garage. I do a lot of work on vehicles myself, but every now and then I either don't have time or it's something that it's not worth me learning how to do for the cost that it's going to be to take it to the garage. So there is pretty much only one garage I trust to do that, and I've never left there feeling ripped off. I've always felt like, yeah, I've actually got a pretty good deal. It wasn't worth doing it myself. And that is Man Automotive in Lawrence Kirk.
Yeah, well, in fact, I think a lot of people know who they are, because when you look for Land Rover stuff, Man often comes up.
They do. A lot of the stuff that the franchise garages in Aberdeen can't do, they send to them. It is a brilliant garage. The guys there are incredibly helpful. I've used them for years.
They basically only do Land Rover. I did ask, because Byron takes his Land Rover all there, and I was there one day. I was like, "Can you?"
You're going to say he takes it there all the time, weren't you?
No, well, you do have 3.
Yeah.
So I would say that fairly regularly between the 1 and the 3, and it's not due to it breaking down. Your Freelander is just worn out parts.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So when he was there last time, I was like, "Can you do my Mondeo?" And he kind of was like, it's not really Land Rover, but I'll do it. So they did do it, and they did a good job. So you just Google it, Man Automotive, and I wouldn't look past them. I don't really take my vehicles anywhere else if I can avoid it. You're up, Daryl. Oh, you're on the second page already.
Yeah, man. I'm on my last 10.
That's right. I've still got a little bit more in here. I think I will go to. Well, you can join in. I'll cover my first page so I can flick over. Trousers. Another big one that people often ask us about, always comes up online. I will say again, we've said this multiple times, the Fortis trousers, we had basically the first version of them. They're now on version 2.0, which is the deer stalking trousers, which I have not been able to wear once because I was given them as I had my accident. But I've also, Byron can tell you a little bit more about them in a second. I've also tried the Browning trousers, which are made out of.
Do you know what they're called, though? You know what model
Unfortunately, I don't, and mine have now been cut into 2 pieces by the ambulance crew. I'd owned them for a few days, but I'd wore them in Norway before I got home, and on first impressions, they are identical to the original Fortis clothes, apart from they had extra padding on the knee, which in fact was the only thing that went wrong with the original Fortis ones. Was the after
My knees have worn out.
yeah,
after 3 years.
Your knees wore out because of the amount of crawling you do. And the Browning ones, I don't know the cost of them because I was giving them in Norway. I love them because I was out in pretty bad weather, wet, and within an hour of just still walking, I was dry again, and that's what the material's about. So the new version of the Fortis trousers, they, I believe, have that your bum is now waterproof, your knees are now waterproof, but it's made out of the same material.
Yeah, so both the Browning ones also made out of almost all the Fortis stuff's made out of ripstop, and these Browning ones Daryl's talking about are made of ripstop, which does tend to dry quite quickly.
Yeah.
The Fortis stalking trousers, which I actually had in Nepal, I couldn't wear them in the middle of the day because it was so hot there, and I was wearing another set of trousers, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But I was wearing them in the evening, and through the winter months here now, that's pretty much all I've been wearing. And they've got a reinforced bum area essentially, and a very, very high back, which is brilliant. That's one thing that I really hate, and like we were talking about the jackets hanging down earlier.
Yeah, you bend over and then your back gets cold because your trousers aren't high enough and your jacket's not long enough.
Exactly, but you don't have that issue. They've got a fairly stiff high back on the new Fortis trousers, and reinforced knees, a better buckling system around the waist than our old ones, and at the bottom around your ankles. The only thing that I would say about them was that maybe the knee area, which has been reinforced, could do with being a little bit smaller.
I was going to say it's a huge area.
It's quite a big area. And the only reason for that is that I found that depending on how high your gaiters are, you find that it can ruck a little bit underneath your gaiters.
The Browning ones have got the same patch as an area, but it's just
softer.
It's just double ripstop or triple ripstop.
Okay, so it isn't this like thicker material.
No, it's not waterproof. But I ripped it when I fell down the hole.
But then you did rip your knee as well.
I did rip my knee open as well, so it did a pretty good job. The Browning trousers were good until the ambulance destroyed them.
I'll just because I mentioned it now, I will talk about the other trousers that I was wearing in Nepal during the day, which, as I said, was pretty warm, and we were doing a lot of walkings up very steep hills, so you're sweating a lot, and absolutely nothing special. I bought them specifically for going there, which was on the Black's website. I think I've basically found what was the cheapest pair.
Is this the zippable?
The zippable.
Well, I'm wearing a pair right now.
Yeah, you are.
But these are North Face ones.
Okay, so I was looking for North Face ones because you told me that you liked these.
These are really good. I got these ones I'm wearing. I know you can't see them, but Barn is the way to describe them. But I paid £30 for these.
They were on sale.
But they were on sale. But the point is that you can get them on sale.
Yeah, so I was hoping to find this pair of North Face quick drying lightweight trousers that zip off at the knee, but there weren't any on sale. So I bought the much cheaper version, which was from Peter Storm, which actually do make some pretty good stuff for the money. They look very, very similar, and I wore them for the whole time that I was in Nepal, one pair of trousers, and they were brilliant. No issues whatsoever.
I wear these North Face ones nearly every single day for general use, walking around, because they're...
I hope you wash them from time to time.
No, almost every day. I have a one day wash day, but because they look fairly smart, so you can walk into town with them, and then you can walk the dogs with them, and then in summer I just unzip them, and then they're shorts. I need to probably buy another one pair, but I'm not saying the North Face is the way to go. It just happened that these were the ones that I bought because they were cheaper.
They're all very similar. Yeah. Your material here feels very similar to the one my Peter Storm.
It is. It's quick drying.
I was a little worried about how they would wear because it's quite a thin material.
Very thin material, yeah.
And my trousers took some serious abuse when I was out there in Nepal, and there's a little bit of wear on the knees, but when I say wear, it's faded fractionally in colour.
I wouldn't be confident to put these through the same abuse I did with the Fortis
trousers.
No,
definitely not. You wouldn't want to go through thorns.
No, they would rip. But
very good if you're
not for that.
No. I'm going to mention a bunch of rifles, because I get this all the time. People, because I used to do a lot of rifle reviewing for Sporting Rifle, I get a lot of messages asking either opinions or recommendations for rifles. So I'm going to do a very quick fire. When it comes to rimfires, it is very, very hard to look past the CZ range. So any of the rifles from CZ when it comes to rimfires. I have a 1.7 in rimfire. My dad has a .22. A lot of gamekeepers shoot CZs. They are reasonably priced. They're built very well. They're not particularly refined, although they have got better, but they just work.
It's a working man's rifle.
It absolutely is. And the ammo that I run through my 1.7 is the 17 grain Hornady. I've been running that for a very long time, and it just works, because there was a lot of ammo, 1.7 ammo, that there were issues with in years gone by, but I think that has all been solved now. That was basically where the primer was going off, but the powder wasn't igniting. I haven't had any issues with the last whole bunch of two lots of 250 that I've had from Hornady.
Sounds like problems you'd have during like the American Civil War, where they had black powder, the flints going off.
I don't know what the issue was, but
it
it was actually incredibly dangerous, and it's worth pointing this out, because there might still be some old batches of ammo from with various manufacturers that the issue was with. It wasn't just one. Is that if you think that your gun goes click, and it's that you didn't load a round and you have a 1.7, it might not be. And if you're shooting at night and you're lamping, just please double check. Because I had on 2 occasions I had with Duff ammo, it went click, and it was at night, so I had to look with a light to check. And what had happened was the primer had gone off. It had just shoved the actual projectile up the barrel maybe a centimetre. And if I hadn't checked and loaded another one, I don't know what would have happened, because then you could be in some serious trouble if the next one goes off.
You end up, well, on a smaller caliber, you might get away with it. But, you know, if the same thing happened with a slightly larger caliber, you could end up with your face being blown off.
Exactly. So always be careful. Full bore rifles. I'm going to mention 2. It's the 2 that I own. It's the 2 that I've ended up with after years and years and years of reviewing a lot of rifles. I have a Schultz & Larsen 6.5 by 55, and I have 2 Kimber Montanas. Now, the Kimbers you can't currently get in this country. You used to be able to get them. That is what I have, so I thought I'd just share that with you. That is what I enjoy using of all the rifles that I've been shooting over the years. And through both of those, I'm running Hornady ammo. I've been running the GMXs through the Schultz & Larsen, not for very long, but they shoot incredibly well. And through the Kimber, I've been using the 150 grain Superformance, which shoots very well. And the last thing, just because it's kind of tied into the guns, is I thought I'd mention the best underrated cartridge that you could get in a second-hand rifle, and that is the Treble 2 with regard to full bore. The Treble 2 is kind of fallen out of favour. A lot of people shoot the 223 for foxes. The Treble 2 used to be used a huge amount for deer. It used to be used a lot in competitions as well. And these days, if you go and look on pretty much any gun shop shelf, you will see a lot of Treble 2s not going anywhere. And they don't cost a lot of money. And yet, it is still a fantastic little cartridge for our smaller deer species. Beautiful, small, soft shooting. It really is sort of a gentleman's cartridge for the smaller deer. And if you are getting into shooting or getting into full bore shooting, and you're looking for something which is good value, you will be able to have a massive array of choice when it comes to second-hand rifles if you shoot a Treble 2. It does mean that you'll need a bigger cartridge if you want to go and shoot the bigger species. But if you're primarily shooting roe, it makes a great roe-fox combo. So don't look past it just because it's not popular anymore.
So I've only got one. I've got 4 things left. I'm going to comment very quickly on some walkie-talkies. We've been through many walkie-talkies over the years. To be honest, we've never actually paid a huge amount of money for any of the walkie-talkies we've ever owned. We have a pair of Hytera radios, digital ones, but you can't actually use them in this country without a license because certain power of I think it's the wattage inside the radio, so basically how far they can transmit and how powerful it is licensed in Scotland Scotland and England, and presumably Wales and Ireland as well. Should have just said the UK. So it's licensed here, which is a bit of a problem. The license costs a bit of money. For us, it's not practical just to have a license because we're all over the show. So I did a bit of research and I found the best that I could find, which was the non-licensed radios, and I ended up with the Motorola T80 radios, and they function just like any other radio. They advertise a 10K range on it. We have tested it at when I did a point-to-point on Google Maps, it was 6.8 kilometers that I got, and it was crystal clear line of sight. Though that is very important, line of sight. So I reckon it was crystal clear at 6.8. So I reckon you probably could push it out to 10 with maybe a little bit of interference. We've used them since, and they seem to perform very well. There was 4 radios. They're waterproof. They've got rechargeable batteries in them. I think they've got a 20-hour or 24-hour lifespan on the batteries. They've just got little charging holders. Byron used them on the last wilderness hunt in the snow, and you seem to say they were fairly useful.
The batteries weren't an issue at all. Yeah. They were on all day, turned off at night, and they were just left out. So they survived the 3 days despite it being very cold. There was times where we couldn't get people. I think some of that was not hearing it, not being loud enough, and a lot of wind. And some of it was we were just deep. We were maybe both deep in valleys.
If you're in big hollows, it's never going to happen. Those radios, they're just not designed for that kind of use. But as soon as you are out of a big hollow and you've definitely got a little bit of line of sight, you will get them. £140 for 4 radios.
It's pretty good.
You've also got the hands-free option as well. I did a lot of research, and I really don't think you can really get much better than that for that kind of money.
Reloading. I used to do a lot of reloading. I still do a little bit. The only reason I don't do so much anymore is just time, although I have just built myself a beautiful new reloading bench in my office in my house, so hopefully I'm going to be doing more soon once it's all set up and ready. But one thing that has really kind of changed the convenience of reloading for me is having the Hornady lock and load system. There's loads of different parts of the lock and load, but the part that I'm specifically talking about is this like bayonet fitting that is part of the press, and is a collar that goes onto your dies. So it means that you can, say, set your full-length resizing die with this collar on, and then you simply bayonet it out, put it on your bench, put your bullet seating die in, and then you can interchange them with the settings set completely, exactly as they were previously. Otherwise, you'd have to screw and thread down, and it's just way more convenient. With a simple twist of your wrist, you take a die out and replace another one. I just found it way better than the system I was using before, and it's now all I use. Completely different to reloading. But next on my list is something which probably a lot of people have already, but I just don't go out without one now if I'm out in the hills, either hunting or just out walking and doing stuff in the countryside, and that is a buff. So very light neck tube, I suppose, would be the best way to describe it if you don't know what a buff is.
The thing is, I think the brand is actually
the brand is buff, but people call it a buff.
It's a bit like a Hoover, but you're still using a Dyson. It's actually the brand is Hoover.
Yeah, so it's the same. It doesn't have to be a buff brand. In fact, I don't think any of mine are the buff brand. Or maybe one that I bought years ago. But whether it's just around your neck, just to keep a bit of draft off your neck, or you can put it up around your head just to keep your ears warm. I use them all the time now, and I think if you've never tried one, you probably won't go out without one.
I own a buff, the branded buff, and I wear it not only hunting, but I also wear it on my motorbike.
Oh, of course.
And if it really does, even on a summer's day, your neck does sometimes get a bit cold. So I'll have a t-shirt on, my motorbike jacket on, then the buff on, and it's brilliant. And then I also use it to, if I don't have anything else, so you can use it as a wiping cloth for your helmet, which I've used in the past.
I use it sometimes to clean the windscreen when I because there's no demystic.
There you go. It's a double
Double use.
Okay, so I have 3 things left.
Yeah, so do I.
I'm going to go on this one because it's a cheap one, a stocking filler. I've now used it for about 9 months, and it's just a car phone mount. Costs $6.99 from Amazon. It's a car phone mount magnetic. I think that's what you need to Google on Amazon. It comes in a 2-pack, and all it is this little disc that fits into any of your I've forgotten the word for it.
Your air vents.
Your air vents. Any of your air vents. I've got it in my X-Trail. It's also in the Mondeo, and they've got completely different types of air vents, and it fits on both. And all you do is you get a disc that comes with a small magnetic disc, and you put that on the inside of your phone case. If you don't have a phone case, I advise not getting this because you have to actually stick it to the inside of your phone case. Otherwise, you'd have to stick it to your phone, and I would rather not put a sticky thing on.
But you should really have a phone case
because
it protects your phone.
And it's so easy compared to a traditional case on your phone. Is you just hold it up and it just snaps straight onto it, and then you just pull it off again. I actually saw it in a gamekeeper's vehicle in the Land Rover, and that's why I ended up buying it, because I thought that's such a cool, really easy thing to use for a phone holder. And you know the way things are. One, you shouldn't be holding a phone while you're driving anyway, but often you always get phone calls when you're driving, and it's just nice to have it on the dashboard near your radio, so you can
and your Bluetooth
so you can see if who's ringing you, or depending on how your car works. My car has a system anyway, but the Mondeo doesn't. So it's just an easy, convenient way to keep your phone kind of nice in your car.
Antiseptic baby wipes.
I love baby wipes.
I mentioned this because I've used them a lot recently, and
I won't go camping without baby wipes.
Exactly. And the 2 weeks that we were out in the mountains in Nepal, I had 2 little packs of. They're not actually baby wipes; they are antiseptic wipes, but they're the same principle. They're wet wipes.
Yeah.
But having the antiseptic ones, we had at the end we had access to a river, which I did get in on the last day, but that was sort of out of the top of the mountains, back down in the bottom of the valley, where we had a little bit of time. But apart from that, there was no opportunity or time to shower or bathe. So the only thing you could do is wipe yourself down, essentially, with a baby wipe. And it is amazing how good that makes you feel just having that. And these days,
baby wipe shower.
it's the way forward.
Yeah.
If you can't do anything else, that is the best alternative.
Yeah.
And I carry them. I have some in my Land Rover, even just for you've granulaced the road here. You got to get back in and now hold your steering wheel.
I own more baby wipes than people that I know that have babies. And it's quite funny because whenever I go to Lidl, I just buy the generic ones off the shelf. They don't cost very much money. It comes in a pack of 100, and I'll have like 6 stacked in the trolley. And people always give you a look of why do you need that many baby wipes? But they're for me.
But if you haven't embraced it yet, embrace the baby wipes.
Yeah, no, they're very good. There's loads of people that use them. It's not just us. Loads of people carry baby wipes with them.
I was actually speaking to somebody the other day I don't know how we got on the subject, but he was saying that he actually lives in Tanzania, and he was saying that some of the PHs were laughing at him because he took baby wipes on the safari. Until they tried it for themselves.
Yeah.
Then they were converted.
It's something as simple as cleaning your face with a baby wipe at the end of the day. You just feel clean.
Yeah, makes you feel better.
Yeah, it does make you feel good. Have you got another one?
You've got 2 left.
I've
got 2 left as well, so you go.
Okay, a low pro bag. This is more angled for the people that like taking pictures or filming. This was a bag we recently purchased
after a lot of research. So we've put the time in. You don't have to. I've put the testing in.
And we put the testing in. We had a bag previous to this, which we paid £120 for. I can't remember the name.
Caseman.
Caseman. It was a Caseman bag. I bought it off eBay, and it was just one of those things that it was a Facebook advert. And I clicked on it. I looked at it. It was £120. It was actually very, very cheap for a specifically camera designed bag, considering the size of it, because it was the Caseman's a big bag. Mm-hmm. And I had my reservations because it was coming from China. It was going to take 3 weeks to arrive, and it came. And to tell you what, that original bag has done us
proud.
It's done us very proud. So anyway, moving on, Nepal, we needed a different bag. We needed one slightly smaller, a little bit more robust, and definitely more waterproof because the other one had lost its waterproofness. And we went with this Low Pro
Whistler.
Low Pro Whistler bag.
I think it was the 450 Whistler.
It was
they
the
have
it was the
different
biggest
sizes.
one that they do, and I think we paid
230.
it's about £230 for it, and just everything about it is really, really nice. You can tell it's got big, large zips on it, which is always a thing I look for. If as soon as you start, unfortunately, our other bag has small zips on it. As soon as you see that, it's always a concern because small zips tend to break very quickly, including the tabs. They always fall off it. So it had big, large zips on it, very comfortable on your back. The back supports are good. Byron wore this all the way up in the mountains in Nepal, so he will be much better to tell you about its functionality than I am. But just on the offset of me seeing it, because I was the one that did the research, it was definitely the market leader in terms of price and functionality and waterproofness as well.
Yeah. It fits. One of the other reasons we got it is it fits the Sony FS5, which we also have.
Yes.
Not with a lot of accessories in there, but it does fit the camera. And like Darryl said, I did wear it in Nepal. I carried it everywhere there. I had all the gear on my back the entire time we were filming in Nepal. And it was, if I remember rightly, when it was weighed for getting on the helicopter, it was 17 kilos. So I had 17 kilos of camera gear plus everything else, plus a jacket and a few extra bits and pieces in there. And
had the drone in there probably.
Yeah, that was in there too. And I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
A little bit like the boots I was saying earlier. I never once thought, oh man, this is hurting my neck or it's hurting my back. And that tells you everything that you need to know. It never let me down, and it fitted everything perfectly, and it protected it really well. It's got quite a stiff, I want to say frame inside. It's not a solid frame. It's just the way that they've sort of put the foam together, and it is pretty stiff. So that if it did need to take an impact of any sort, it does seem to me like it's going to protect your gear, especially in the main back compartment.
Yeah.
I'm going to mention the 3 types of chemicals I use for cleaning guns, because it's something else that people ask me about lots. I don't just use one. I use all 3 of these. I put bore foam down my rifles first, and that basically gets out all of the copper. I might give it 2 or 3 soakings, depending on how much shooting that's been done. I then pull it through with hoppies until pretty much clean, and then the last thing I do is pull it through with ballistol, and then clean dry patches until I can't.
We'll be giving away some hoppy stuff, won't we?
I think in the future. I don't think I've got any now, but yeah, we will have some hoppy stuff to give away.
Yeah, I think so. So you got one left, you?
I got one.
So I'll go with mine. Now, this is actually a present I bought Byron, and I've used one before, but I haven't actually used his, but he's used his loads. I'm talking about an adjustable grill. You see often in, actually, I think it's quite a Scandinavian thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a tripod.
I
don't actually know what it's called. It probably does have some Scandinavian name.
Honestly, just type in adjustable grill online. Yeah, just type that in, you'll find it, and it's on a chain, and then you can lower the height.
Yeah, you just ratchet it up.
You ratchet the height of the grill, and you can either have a cooking bowl underneath, where you put the fire in, or you can just have an open pit fire and the tripod sitting on top. And Byron's cooked loads on it.
This I got it for my birthday.
Yes,
in June, and I cooked on it probably once a week, every week of the summer. If not twice a week, even if it was just a case of heating up food. Part of it was the novelty of it, but also where I live, I've got a nice view outside the garden, so it was nice on an evening after work when I'm doing stuff around the garden anyway. I might as well light the fire and cook over the grill.
In summer,
it's very simple but great.
I cook on the barbecue all the time in summer, because why not? Even in winter, you can do it.
I think I'm going to try and we've got family up on Christmas Eve. And I'm going to try and crank out the tripod grill to cook up some stuff for lunch. And this is the very last thing, is it, from me?
I'm just double checking my list. I'm done. Okay,
last thing for me is magazine subscriptions.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to mention 2. One magazine which is really, I think, sort of at the top end of magazines in terms of quality and content in this country, in the UK, and that is Field Sports Magazine. We've got to know the editor a little bit as well in recent months. In fact, I was just with him on a ptarmigan shoot only a few weeks ago, and they really do have a great mindset on the sort of ethos and ethics and the way that hunting should move forward. And they certainly seem to be taking that on further than a lot of other magazines. So that would make a great subscription and a great buy if you see it on the shelf. The other one is Sporting Rifle Magazine if you're a rifle shooter and rifle shooter only. And I mentioned that one because I write in it, and I have written in it for more than a decade now.
And me too.
And yes, Daryl's in there too. So you will see articles from us.
I think there's more pictures of me than articles about me in it. Yeah. There's loads of pictures of me over the last few months.
Yeah, it's because I take... Yeah, it's. I don't know why that's been the case. But you've obviously been in the better
but not
pictures.
Just in your articles.
Yeah.
They use a picture of me to advertise the subscription of Getting
You're
More
right,
magazine.
actually. That's an old picture. That picture is from
2 years ago.
Yeah, from when we did our Into the Wilderness film series. Yeah. So go and check those two out.
Okay, so that is it. Needless to say, we can't forget our own products as well. So
that has to go on the list.
Go and grab yourself a t-shirt and a mug, and then it'll be happy days. Shipping we've only got a few days left. I think it's the 14th for Europe. So if you live in any of the European countries, then you have to get it in now. I think the United States, it's all on the website, is the same. So I think the United States is the 14th. Unfortunately, we've now missed it. If you live in Australia, New Zealand, any of those other really far away places, you will not get it in time for Christmas. Well, there'll be no guarantee. We'll still send it, but there's no guarantee it will get there in time. Mm-hmm. And for the UK, it is the 20th.
It's the 20th.
I think officially it's the 21st.
Okay.
But we're saying the 20th so that we can get the orders out, because if we go on the 21st and they take the post at 10 o'clock, we might miss it because we don't live near a post office.
No. We've had a lot of orders so far, so if you're listening and you've ordered already, thank you very much.
Yeah, we're greatly appreciated.
And that's it. You're going to be hearing from us in only a few days' time now, where we're going to bring you a podcast we recorded at a Night Vision event over in Perthshire only a few days ago, along with a whole bunch of news updates, because there's been a lot of things happening, and we're going to get you all right up to date. I think
that will be the wrap-up for Christmas, won't it?
I think it will be.
Yeah, because it's Christmas is the following week, and then we'll have a podcast in between Christmas and New Year, I think. Yeah. So the next one will be the Christmas.
So we'll be able to wish you a Merry Christmas in the next podcast.
We will indeed. And we're not giving away anything on this one.
No, because this is an interim one. But there is, we will be announcing the competition winners from last week's podcast.
And the J Bolts one as well.
Yes, now loads of people have entered that. If you want to win a set of Hornady cufflinks from J Bolt Designs, go over it's on Instagram, and it's also on our Facebook. And I think all you have to do, if I remember rightly, is tag a friend below.
Yeah, we'll get that out this Thursday, so it'll be shipped in time for Christmas. On the next one, we'll also have some more news about charity event.
Oh, yes.
In fact, Baron has a little bit of details right now.
I can mention a little bit about this. In South Africa, that's probably true in quite a lot of places in Africa, but certainly in South Africa, where I go and hunt a lot with a very good friend of mine, Dear van der Lange, in the Eastern Cape, they have been suffering from what is essentially a 7-year drought there. They've had barely any rain, so much so that when I was there a few months back, they've been capturing game on some farms and moving them to other parts of South Africa just so that there's something to eat, because they can't physically bring in enough food for them to eat. And where they can, they're supplementing the wild bushes and food that's there. It really, really is bad. So what my friend is doing, along with a friend of his who I met when I was over there, is that they want to raffle a safari. The safari is going to be worth around £2,800. They want to raise £3,000, and it's going to go. Most of it's going to go towards drought relief, as well as some anti-poaching measures there, because they're still having rhino taken there, along with bushmeat trade. And all the details of that we're going to announce on the podcast on Thursday. It is a fantastic cause. At the moment, I think the raffle tickets for that are going to be £10 a ticket. So it is your chance to win an outstanding safari in the Eastern Cape. And the only thing you would have to do is get your flight there and back.
Which you can get for about £450.
Yeah, if you book far enough in advance, the flight to Joburg, about $450, $500.
So you can,
and then there's one more flight required though. You've got to get from Joburg to Port Elizabeth.
Insignificant.
Yeah, which is about 70 quid.
Yeah, 70 quid.
Which isn't a lot of money, really.
No, it's not. So when we announce the raffle tickets, this is kind of a last minute thing that's just happened because they need help right now. We are going to be doing things with stuff at home in the UK very, very soon in terms of charity, but this is also a friend of ours that's doing this. And like Byron said, it'll be around £10 a ticket. That'll be confirmed. And we encourage you, you know what, even if you don't want to go on the safari, if you just donate the money.
We're going to give you all the...
We'll actually
all
have
the
a
details
donation
of it
thing where
as well.
people can just donate money, like we did with the chimpanzees. And the really cool thing with this is that when we hopefully raise the money, we can go out there and we can take some pictures and show you. Unlike the chimpanzees, it's in the middle of the Congo. It's really not practical to get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, hopefully we're going to be basically in the place that this is happening at some point next year.
And you can see where your money has gone and helped.
Absolutely. For now, that is us. You will hear from us in a few days' time.